Well, thank you very much for having me on, Jackie, and thank all of you for your solidarity. I just left London 3 days ago. Um, I think your prior speaker was right in many respects. Sanctions have different meanings. They are longer range. With the sanctions against Putin himself, he probably doesn't have much assets in his own name. Significantly, the U.S. announced sanctions yesterday that dealt with family members of some of the Russian elite and oligarchs. So that is important as well. In terms of the legislation that I put in for sanctions, it actually is done in a transatlantic partnership. Parliamentarians in the EU have the exact same sanction that we put on against Russian parliamentarians, members of the Duma. And it's an effort to show bipartisanship. We have Republicans and Democrats on this in the US, and our transatlantic bond, where we have identical sanctions from each other's parliaments to the Russian parliament that voted to actually take away the sovereignty of portions of Ukraine in an action that's reprehensible and against international law.
Now, as Paul was saying, sanctions can cut both ways. Now, polling suggests there's very little appetite for the US to play any significant role in this conflict. If you throw in what everyone is saying will be huge hikes to petrol prices, that could make an already unpopular president more unpopular. And how long do you then take the high moral ground if it's really impacting you economically?
Well, I think our leaders and the president realizes that we're all going to share a burden. In fact, he said that. He's preparing Americans for that, as you're preparing, your leaders are preparing people in Europe. We will all have a burden to bear. Now, the battle isn't between Ukraine and Russia, and we have to dispel that notion. This is bigger than that. Prior to this conflict and this invasive, terrible, horrific action by a person I think has gone off the rails a bit, we were facing a historic challenge of authoritarianism and democracy. This is the turning point. This is the turning point historically. And when we left the Munich Security Conference, the message was solidarity, but realize what a significant moment this is, where we can't turn back or democracy will indeed fail. So the messages are strong, but you can't equate sanctions with Putin's current actions.
But that is the difficulty for you, though, particularly for America, perhaps. You know, you're under no illusion about the gravity of this situation. You know, you're saying if we fail in meeting this moment, then democracy fails. But we are watching armoured vehicles and Russian troops on the outskirts of a European capital. Are we already seeing that failure?
No. You're seeing an action that Putin has control over militarily, and he's surrounded this country with 70% of his entire conventional military force. And the quite harsh truth is that any direct military action by NATO or by the United States would not be successful logistically in the short sense. So we're doing what we are. NATO has, for the first time in its history, activated its response force. It's never been done before. We're bolstering the NATO borders. We're there for humanitarian reasons. We're bringing weapons in to help Ukrainians defend themselves. And we're prepared to suffer the after effects of sanctions. So we're all in as a unit. And the solidarity is necessary, and the resolve to make this last. Russia will become a pariah country, a third-rate country with a weakened economy, but we have to persevere. It might take months, it might take years.
And some people would point to what they would say is the brutal truth that President Biden, he predicted this invasion. He talked about almost every step, and it has happened as he predicted it. And yet he and the rest of the wider world were impotent to stop it. So doesn't this make the United States look very weak?
Well, no. You know, we could take a portion of Canada, for instance, that's contiguous with the United States. And if we chose to take that section, the Russian army and other armies wouldn't be capable of doing it. There's a short-term military advantage that's overwhelming that he's playing that card now. That could be the last card Putin plays. If we band together the way we are now, he's destroying his country. And as I saw those scenes just moments ago on your program, we should rivet on the heartbreaking fact that Ukrainians are suffering, children in subways, people fleeing their homes. A few days ago, I was with the mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, and he was describing innocent, peace-loving people just wanting to go to work. It's a tragedy, and we will do what we can collectively in solidarity, but some of the early cards Putin has control over. No one since the Nazi era has played those type of cards in Europe before. It is something that's shocking and something that has to be stopped here